I will never read every book. I will never listen to every song. I won't step foot in every city, but I will live 1,000,000 lives. What up, you guys? Today I am doing a book review of Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. Now, I'm gonna be honest, this is probably one of the best books I've read in a very long time. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone because I have some notes here. I literally just took pictures of pages I loved. And I just wanted to talk about the book altogether. Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. Just a quick overview, I guess, is that it's a New York Times bestseller. I got the updated edition because I don't know when it originally came out. I believe it was in the early 2000s to maybe 1999, around then. But basically, it's just Anthony Bourdain doing lessons in the kitchen or talking about his life in the kitchen. And it's the most passive-aggressive autobiography I think I've ever read, where it's his story, and it's basically a summarization of his life without it actually being, written that way. It's like him telling stories, but this is literally a summary of his life, and then you read it, and you see certain pages, and you can see, and I feel like I kind of understand why he ended up killing himself. And that sounds terrible, but I think it just shows that he never changed, and this has been him forever. So I think the most fascinating thing about Anthony Bourdain to me is that he was a chef for like 29 years before he became the reality star we know him as. Because he was writing little blogs, and that's how he kind of blew up. You know, they showed up in the New York Times all of a sudden, and then he ended up writing this book, and 6 months later he was never in the kitchen, which I find really interesting. Or it's like, it almost feels like that's probably the fall of him, is sorry, this is like I'm trying to find the last page. This is like in the remastered version, he makes a little life update. I'll be right here. Until they drag me off the line, I'm not going anywhere. I hope it's been an adventure. We took some casualties over the years. Things got broken, things got lost. But I wouldn't have missed it for the world. And that was him referring to like being in the kitchen, cooking in New York. And obviously, 6 months after this book, he was no longer a chef. He became kind of a nomad. He was a star, really. And I think the big thing about Anthony Bourdain is that he wasn't himself when he was on camera. He was. He was like kind of I wouldn't say the original performative male, but he made an idolized version of himself when he was on the screen doing the tour guides, doing all that stuff. I watched like No Reservations, Expedition Unknown, and if you watch it, you notice he hates killing things. He doesn't want to kill anything. But it's ironically because you're a chef and you deal with dead animals almost all the time. But he didn't want to do any of the killing. And you kind of see like this pacifist, or this man who's kind of like struggling with his identity. Even in the book, he's constantly jumping from job to job, chasing money, because he always took the job with the most money. But I feel like Anthony was lying, just the way he was reading. I think he was just scared. He didn't want to be stuck in one place at a time. He was constantly moving. He was a chef. He was moving up the order. He was a line chef, then became the sous chef, head chef, a new menu every day. Something new, always creating, always moving. And there's like this mind of the chef where you always have to create an art. And I think that's why he was always jumping from job to job. And I think that's why he was such a good person for Expedition Unknown, because he was moving from place to place. He was a chef constantly redefining his art by traveling and moving. And I think slowly but surely, once he stopped moving and traveling, that's when he lost himself. Granted, I think he lost himself when he left the kitchen. There's such a difference between painting and looking at being a painter and looking at paintings, You can appreciate it as much as you can, like, oh wow, but you don't understand the hours upon hours of work that took. It's like watching golf. It's like, oh wow, that was a beautiful swing. We don't know the hours and years it took for them to do that swing. And I think Anthony lost a part of himself once he got on the show and stopped being the cook. Like, the whole thing is Kitchen Confidential. It's about being in the kitchen, which is where I think Anthony thrived as a person on a material level, but I think his soul was made to explore, to do that adventure unknown. And I feel like this is like a perfect case of like a celebrity whose identity and their experiences don't cross paths in weird ways. Because at his heart, he's a chef, but in his soul, he's an artist who wants to create something new every day. And while they are the same, but for him, they like cross paths in a weird way. And that's why his life... I'm not trying to be like, this is why he killed himself. But from reading his book, I feel like I understand him a lot more. And I'd hate to say it, I relate to him in the worst ways possible. Whereas, like, there's a clip on a Joe Rogan podcast with this lady. She talks about Anthony Bourdain. And she says that, like, when he puts the camera on, it wasn't him. He was acting. And he was putting on a mask, pretending to be happy when he wasn't. Or people liked that version of him, which wasn't the real him. Because, at the end of the day, a chef is putting out a meal. And the meal doesn't define them. But it does represent you. And I think that's something that I really got from you. The difference between definition and representation. My actions can define me, but my thoughts represent me, or vice versa. And I think Anthony Bourdain's book is a representation of his mind, which I feel like we get into in the show. But I feel at times he doesn't get to define himself. Or maybe I phrased that wrong. The book is a definition of him, but his show is a representation. Like, this was a man who loved the kitchen. 29 years before he was famous, it was a grind. He became a chef because his parents were in France and they left him in the car because they knew he wouldn't appreciate the fancy restaurant. So he made a vow to himself, like as a young child, that I'm going to try every crazy food ever just because my parents left me in the car. Like, don't get me wrong, guys, I had dreams growing up, but I don't think I ever did something so poetic and, like, stood up for myself at a young age and, like, this is what I want to do. Like, I constantly have new dreams and admirations every week just because my thing is I want to do everything. Which is kind of what Anthony did in the end. He went and explored, and he didn't really live anywhere. There's a page... Oh, I'm so dumb. I have it on my phone right here. Though I've spent half my life watching people, guiding them, trying to anticipate their moods, motivations, and actions, running from them, manipulated, and being manipulated by them, they remain a mystery to me. People confuse me. Food doesn't. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm looking at when I see a perfect loin of #1 tuna. I can understand why millions of Japanese are driven to near bloodlust by the firm, almost iridescent flesh. I get why my boss grows teary-eyed when he sees a flawlessly executed shoke grani. I don't think I pronounced that right, but he describes more food. And I think it's interesting that Anthony talks about people. Because I feel like he's the ultimate people person, where he inspired so many people, but he doesn't actually have the ability to communicate with them directly, or face to face, or, he doesn't get people. But I think he understands the human mind, the human consciousness, the idea of life. And I think if anyone was to represent the idea of life, travel, and actually living, it's Anthony Bourdain. Because he found this perfect balance between a career and a life, and combining the two together. You could say you could argue he grinded for 29 years and had a job, but if we could ask him, he'd say he wouldn't regret a day. And it's that old saying, if you do a job you love, then you'll never work a day in your life. And I genuinely think that happened to Anthony Bourdain. But at the end of the day, I think he stopped working and quote-unquote stopped living, so to say. And that's when it all ended. But Kitchen Confidential is the story of Anthony Bourdain growing up through that kitchen and kind of discovering himself. And all the things we love about him in this show, I think, come from this book. come from his adventures in the kitchen, because that's why he's so authentic, because he's lived and he's worked. And granted, I worked at a little smoothie shop, and we had like 70 workers, but like 6 people on a shift. It was like all part-time. We're all college students. And like even making my little smoothies and like avocado toast, like I related to so much stuff he was saying. And like it generally makes me want to go get like a part-time job and just do dishes in a restaurant just to meet new people and experience the kitchen that Anthony Bourdain described. Like I was at dinner the other night, fancy restaurant. My brother's father-in-law was paying. Like I couldn't afford it, but I walked the bathroom, you can see the kitchen, and it was super clean. Everyone was quiet. I saw the guy doing dishes, and I was peeking in there, and it just made me happy thinking about Kitchen Confidential. And like, it tells you like don't get seafood on Monday, don't get the Sunday brunch, stuff like that. But I think it's the human stories about the people he hated, the mistakes he made, the cussing, the drugs, just the excitement of life is what makes this book so good. It's not a book about the kitchen. It's a book about life. And I think if you can find something you relate to in this book, I would recommend it to anyone. I think Anthony Bourdain is like a top 5 person all time in human history for just what he was able to do with just his personality, really, and his experience. We all work jobs and do stuff and just don't appreciate it and don't take note of all the significant events that happen. We don't take advantage of it. Like, we've all experienced stuff that's written in this book, some way or another, through a job or something. And I don't think we would be able to articulate it the way Anthony does. And even his adventures across the world, I don't think many can do it the way he did. And there's this guy on TikTok who did, like, Anthony Bourdain if he was at Coachella. And I was genuinely, like, offended. Like, no, don't replicate it. You can't replicate art. Just let it be. Like, there will never be another Anthony Bourdain. There will never be another you. There will never be another Kitchen Confidential. So just experience it, read it, enjoy it. 10 out of 10 book, guys. I guarantee you'll enjoy it if you read it. This was my book review. A little philosophical, but screw it, man. Or Anthony Day would be like, fuck it. Peace.